I am Hannah, 35 years old, a single mother from Westbrook, Maine. My son Jamie has fought against dyslexia his entire school life to finally reach graduation day. I never imagined the moment would be tainted by such cruelty. When Patricia, Caleb's mother, publicly humiliated my child, something inside me broke and reformed into steel. Years of watching her favor her precious grandchildren culminated in that moment. But what she didn't know was how fiercely I would protect what is mine. Before I tell you how I turned this painful moment into triumph, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like button if you've ever had to stand up for your child against someone who tried to crush their spirit. Life wasn't always this complicated. 12 years ago, when Jamie was just 5, my husband Richard and I divorced. The split wasn't particularly dramatic, just two people who had grown in different directions. But it left me as the primary caregiver for our son, while working full-time as a nurse at Westbrook General Hospital. The early morning shifts and late-night study sessions with Jamie became our normal. Richard wasted no time moving on. Within a year, he married Sophia, a dermatologist with her own thriving practice. While I was working overtime to pay for Jamie's dinosaur bed sheets, Richard was honeymooning in Bali. But I tried not to be bitter. Sophia was actually kind to Jamie, treating him respectfully during his weekend visits, and that's what mattered most to me. When Jamie was 8, his teacher suggested we have him evaluated. The diagnosis came back clear dyslexia. Suddenly, his struggles with reading made sense. While other kids breezed through Harry Potter, Jamie would spend hours on a single page, tears of frustration staining the paper. But my boy never gave up. He would wake up an hour early to practice his reading before school, his determination stronger than any learning challenge. It was around this time that Caleb entered our lives. He was Sophia's brother, recently divorced himself, and father to twins Adam and Amelia, who were the same age as Jamie. Since Richard and Sophia often hosted family gatherings, Jamie began spending time with his step-cousins during his weekend visits with his father. Westbrook isn't a big town. Soon enough, we discovered the twins attended the same school as Jamie. They were in different classes, but they shared the same lunch period, and a friendship began to form. Jamie would come home on Mondays, excited about the games they played during Friday lunch. These connections made our small interconnected family more complicated, but I was happy Jamie had found friends who accepted him. Then there was Patricia, Caleb's mother. The twins. Grandmother was a retired school principal who lived just outside of town. From the moment I met her at a school fundraiser, I sensed her sharp judgment. She stood ramrod straight, her silver hair pulled into a tight bun, eyes constantly evaluating everyone around her. At first, the comments were subtle, almost unnoticeable unless you were looking for them. The twins got straight A's on their report cards. That academic excellence clearly runs in our family, she would say, glancing toward Jamie. Or when Jamie struggled to read a menu aloud at a restaurant, perhaps he just needs to apply himself more. Amelia was reading chapter books at 6. I would squeeze Jamie's hand under the table, trying to shield him from the comparisons. He'd give me a small smile, but I could see the hurt in his eyes. Still, I tried to keep the peace for the sake of this strange extended family we'd found ourselves part of. Our community didn't make it any easier. Westbrook prided itself on academic achievement. The high school regularly sent students to Ivy League schools, and the local paper featured honor roll students like they were celebrities. Parent-teacher meetings were competitive affairs, where mothers and fathers compared their children's achievements like trading cards. In this environment, Patricia's attitude wasn't unique, just more personal and pointed. I taught Jamie that success comes in different forms. While he might not ace every spelling test, his kindness and perseverance were worth more than any grade. He seemed to believe me, but I worried about the constant, subtle messaging he was receiving from elsewhere. How long could a child's self-esteem withstand being the not-so-smart one? As Jamie grew, I watched him develop a protective shell against Patricia's judgment. He became quieter at family gatherings, his natural exuberance dimming whenever she entered the room. I started to wonder if these family connections were worth the cost to my son's spirit. By the time Jamie entered high school, the contrast between him and the twins became even more pronounced. While he spent hours with tutors just to maintain C grades, Adam and Amelia effortlessly collected academic achievements like Halloween candy. Science fair. The twins won first place with their joint project on sustainable energy. Math competition, Adam received the highest score in the district. Writing contest, Amelia had her essay published in a national magazine. Their successes were genuine accomplishments, earned through their natural abilities and hard work, and I never begrudged them that. But Patricia made certain everyone knew about every single achievement. Jamie, on the other hand, celebrated quieter victories. Finishing a novel that had once seemed impossible, giving a speech in English class despite his fear of mispronouncing words, getting a B- on a history test after weeks of studying. These were mountains he had climbed, but Patricia saw only molehills. Family gatherings became increasingly tense affairs. Richard hosted a barbecue that summer before sophomore year, and Patricia arrived with gift bags for the twins. For my brilliant grandchildren, she announced pulling out expensive graphing calculators for their success in the regional math Olympiad. Jamie stood nearby holding the salad bowl he'd been taking to the table. His face flushed red as everyone turned to congratulate the twins. I moved to stand beside him, placing my hand gently on his shoulder. Jamie just got his driving permit, I mentioned, trying to create space for his achievement, too. Patricia barely glanced up. Well, I suppose operating a vehicle is within most people's capabilities, she responded dismissively before turning back to gush over the twins' SAT prep plans. That night, I found Jamie sitting alone on the front porch steps after we returned home. "Does Grandma Patricia hate me?" he asked quietly. My heart shattered. "No, honey, she just doesn't understand how amazing you are, because I'm not smart like them." I sat beside him, wrapping my arm around his shoulders that were beginning to broaden with his teenage growth. "Listen to me. There are different kinds of intelligence. Adam and Amelia are academically gifted, yes, but you have emotional intelligence and perseverance that are just as valuable, just as important." He nodded, but I could tell he didn't fully believe me. In a world that measured success by grades and test scores, my words felt like empty comfort. The holiday season brought its own special form of torture. Patricia hosted Thanksgiving dinner that year, inviting both Richard and Sophia's family, as well as Caleb and the twins. She extended an invitation to Jamie and me as well, which surprised me until I realized it was just for appearances. Her dining room looked like something from a magazine with an elaborate tablescape of gourds and candles. The twins were seated on either side of her at the head of the table, while Jamie and I were placed at the far end next to the kitchen door. As turkey was passed around, Patricia raised her glass. "I'm so thankful this year for academic excellence." She smiled at the twins. "Amelia and Adam have been accepted into the advanced placement program for next semester. Their teacher says they're on track for valedictorian consideration." Everyone murmured appropriate congratulations. I glanced at Jamie, who was pushing cranberry sauce around on his plate, and felt a surge of protectiveness. "Jamie has made the basketball team," I offered, my voice sounding too loud in my own ears. Patricia barely acknowledged my comment. "Yes, physical education is important too, I suppose." She turned to Richard. "Did you know Amelia scored in the 99th percentile on her PSAT? At this rate, Harvard might be calling Sophia's smile looked strained, and I wondered if she too was growing tired of her mother's constant academic promotion." Caleb stared into his wine glass, saying little. As dessert was served, Patricia delivered her most pointed blow yet. "So, Jamie," she said, directing her attention to my son for the first time that evening, "will you be graduating with your class, or will you need one of those special accommodations?" The table went silent. Jamie froze fork halfway to his mouth. "Excuse me?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "Well, I was just wondering." Patricia continued, seemingly oblivious to the tension she'd created. "Given his challenges, it wouldn't be unusual to require extra time. Not everyone is cut out for academic success. No shame in that." Richard cleared his throat. "Mom, that's not appropriate." She waved her hand dismissively. Just being realistic. Education resources should be focused on students who will truly benefit. Jamie will graduate and find a respectable job, I'm sure, but Adam and Amelia will change the world." I stood up so quickly my chair scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. "Jamie and I are going to head home. Thank you for dinner." As we drove home in silence, I glanced over at Jamie, whose face was turned toward the window. "She's wrong, you know," I said softly. He didn't turn from the window. "Is she, though?" That night, I found him in tears, curled up on his bed. He had overheard Patricia telling someone on the phone that Jamie was just not bright, not like her grandchildren, and that his father had married beneath him. I held my son as he sobbed, rage building inside me. But I knew that confronting Patricia directly would only make things worse for Jamie. Instead, I channeled my anger into action, researching programs for students with dyslexia, finding better tutors, and advocating more aggressively at school for his accommodations. All the while, I tried to repair the damage Patricia was inflicting on my son's self-image with every interaction. For every poisonous comment she made, I offered an antidote of truth about his worth and abilities, but I worried the venom was spreading faster than I could counteract it. Senior year arrived with a flurry of activity and anxiety. College application season loomed over everything, creating an atmosphere of constant tension for high school seniors and their families. For students with learning differences like Jamie, it was particularly stressful. October brought early decision deadlines, and the twins were ready. Adam applied early to MIT for engineering, while Amelia sent her application to Yale for their literature program. Both had stellar transcripts, perfect yet SAT scores, and an impressive list of extracurricular activities. Their acceptance was almost a foregone conclusion. Jamie and I took a different approach. We researched colleges with strong support programs for students with dyslexia, places where his unique learning style would be accommodated and his strengths could shine. He worked diligently on his personal essay telling the story of his dyslexia diagnosis and how it had taught him resilience and determination. I had never been prouder than when I read his final draft, filled with raw honesty and quiet courage. December arrived bringing winter snow and college decisions. Adam and Amelia both received their early acceptance letters within days of each other, complete with substantial merit scholarships. Patricia was ecstatic. I knew it, she crowed during a phone call with Richard that I overheard when picking up Jamie from his weekend visit. Academic excellence has always run in our family. These children are destined for greatness. She decided to host a celebration dinner at Arabella's, the most expensive restaurant in town. The invitation came via Richard, who looked uncomfortable delivering it. Patricia is having a dinner for the twins' college acceptances, he explained. She wanted me to invite you and Jamie. I hesitated. After the Thanksgiving disaster, I was reluctant to subject Jamie to another evening of comparisons, but refusing might seem petty. When is it? I asked. Richard cleared his throat. Actually, it's tonight. I know it's last minute. Tonight, I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. He had the grace to look embarrassed. She just decided this morning when Amelia's letter arrived. Jamie's got a major Spanish test tomorrow that he needs to study for. I lied smoothly. Please give the twins our congratulations. That night, as Jamie actually was studying Spanish, the celebration dinner proceeded without us. From the photos that appeared on social media later, it seemed we were the only ones not invited. Even distant relatives had managed to attend this supposedly last-minute celebration. But I didn't have time to dwell on Patricia's snub. Jamie was still waiting for his own college decisions, and I focused my energy on keeping his spirits up during the agonizing wait. Finally, in early February, an email arrived from Lakewood State University. Jamie was accepted into their comprehensive academic support program, a special initiative for students with learning differences that provided individualized tutoring, adaptive technology, and flexible assessment options. Watching my son's face as he read the acceptance letter was like witnessing the sun break through storm clouds. For years, he'd been told implicitly, and sometimes explicitly, that his academic future was limited. Now he held tangible proof that he belonged in higher education too. We need to celebrate, I declared. How about pizza and your favorite movie tonight? And this weekend we'll have a proper party. Jamie grinned, looking more like his old self than he had in months. Can we invite Dad and Sophia? Of course, I said, hiding my surprise. And Adam and Amelia too, if you'd like. The twins were actually among the first to RSVP to our small celebration, sending warm congratulations to Jamie. They had always been kind to him, I realized, despite their grandmother's competitive posturing. The problem had never been with them. I kept the celebration simple but meaningful. Our small backyard was transformed with string lights and balloons in Lakewood State's colors. I ordered catering from Jamie's favorite barbecue place and asked his best friends from school and the basketball team to join us. Richard and Sophia arrived early to help set up. Sophia pulled me aside as we arranged food on the serving table. "This is really wonderful what you're doing for Jamie," she said quietly. "He's worked so hard. He deserves to be celebrated." She nodded, looking troubled. "I want you to know that I don't agree with my mother's attitude. Neither does Caleb. The way she compares the children, it's not right." I appreciated her acknowledgement, but stayed focused on the task at hand. Today's about Jamie. That's all that matters. The party was in full swing when an unexpected guest arrived. Patricia stood at the gate to our backyard impeccably dressed in a tailored pantsuit, looking distinctly out of place among the casual celebration. Jamie tensed beside me, his smile faltering. I squeezed his shoulder reassuringly before walking over to greet her. "Patricia, I didn't realize you were coming." I kept my voice neutral. "Richard mentioned the celebration. I thought I'd stop by." She glanced around at the modest decorations. "So Jamie got into college, yes, Lakewood State." I couldn't keep the pride from my voice. "Their program for students with learning differences is one of the best in the region." Her lips thinned. "Oh, just a community college then?" "It's a state university," I corrected her, "with a specialized program that will set him up for success." "Well," she sniffed, "I suppose it's nice they have places for everyone. Not every student can aspire to the Ivy League after all." Before I could respond, she swept past me toward the food table. I took a deep breath, reminding myself this was Jamie's day, and I wouldn't let her ruin it with her condescension. Throughout the afternoon, Patricia made several similar comments, each one a small needle designed to deflate Jamie's achievement. When he showed her the university brochure, she remarked that the campus looked charming for such a simple school. When he talked about the business program he planned to enter after his core classes, she wondered aloud whether he'd be able to handle such a competitive field with his limitations. Finally, as guests were beginning to leave, I found her alone and decided a direct conversation was necessary. "Patricia, I need to speak with you privately," I said, gesturing toward the side of the house away from the remaining partygoers. She followed me with an air of mild curiosity. Once we were alone, I turned to face her. "I understand you're proud of your grandchildren," I began carefully, "but your constant comparisons and dismissal of Jamie's achievements are hurting him. Today was supposed to be his celebration." She looked genuinely confused. "I'm only being realistic, Hannah. Resources should go to those who will make the most of them. Smart kids who will make something of themselves. Jamie has worked twice as hard as most students to get where he is. He's overcome challenges that would have defeated many others. How does that not qualify as making something of himself?" I could feel my voice rising and made an effort to control it. Patricia's expression hardened. "Let's be honest. He's attending a mediocre state school with special accommodations. Adam and Amelia are going to elite universities on merit. I'm not being cruel, just factual. Your kid means nothing in the greater scheme of things. Caleb's kids actually deserve everything because they're smart. They'll contribute meaningfully to society." I stared at her, shocked by the baldness of her statement. I opened my mouth to reply when I noticed a movement behind her. Jamie stood frozen, his face pale, having clearly overheard every word. How long had he been standing there? Patricia followed my gaze and had the grace to look momentarily uncomfortable before quickly composing herself. She nodded curtly and walked back to the party without acknowledging Jamie. I rushed to my son. "Jamie, what she said, that's not true. You know that, right?" He gave me a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It's okay, Mom. I'm used to it." But I wasn't okay with it. As I watched him walk back to his friends, shoulders slumped despite his forced smile, I made a silent promise. His graduation day would be perfect, a celebration of everything he had accomplished, and Patricia would not be allowed to taint it with her toxic attitudes. For the next few months, I limited Jamie's exposure to Patricia as much as possible. When family gatherings were unavoidable, I stayed close to him, redirecting conversations when they veered toward academic comparisons. But as graduation approached, a confrontation seemed inevitable. Little did I know how public and vicious it would be. The morning of graduation day dawned bright and clear, a perfect late spring day with a gentle breeze and blue skies. I had taken the day off from the hospital, determined to be fully present for Jamie's milestone. As I made breakfast, I could hear him moving around upstairs, likely wrestling with his tie. Despite everything, he was excited. "Jamie, pancakes are ready!" I called up the stairs. He appeared moments later looking suddenly grown up in his dress shirt and slacks. His graduation gown and cap were carefully laid across his backpack, ready to take to the ceremony. "You look handsome," I said, feeling the familiar tug of maternal pride and melancholy. When had my little boy become this young man? "Thanks, Mom." He slid into his chair at the kitchen table. "You think Dad's going to make it on time?" He promised he would. I set a stack of blueberry pancakes in front of him. "In fact, he's picking us up in an hour so we don't have to deal with parking." Jamie nodded, drowning his pancakes in syrup. "Who else is coming?" I kept my tone casual. "Sophia, of course, and Caleb with the twins. And Grandma Patricia." He didn't look up from his plate. I hesitated. Richard said she might meet them there. His shoulders tensed slightly, but he continued eating. "Cool." The doorbell rang precisely at 9:30. Richard stood on the porch looking uncomfortable in a suit and tie, checking his watch. "Ready for the big day, champ?" he asked Jamie, giving him an awkward side hug. The drive to Westbrook High School was filled with Richard's attempts at conversation about college plans and summer jobs. I sat in the back seat, watching the familiar streets pass by, remembering all the mornings I'd driven Jamie to school through elementary, middle, and now high school. So many mornings of encouraging him to try his best, assuring him that his learning difference didn't define him. The school parking lot was already crowded when we arrived. Families in their Sunday best clustered around the entrance to the auditorium, taking photos and adjusting graduates' caps. We found Sophia, Caleb, and the twins waiting near the main doors. The twins were dressed impeccably, looking like they'd stepped out of a college brochure themselves. They greeted Jamie warmly. "Congrats, man," Adam said, offering a fist bump. Amelia hugged him. "We're really proud of you." I noticed Patricia was nowhere to be seen. Perhaps we'd be spared her presence after all. Jamie needed to join the other graduates in the gymnasium for lineup. So we said our temporary goodbyes and found seats in the auditorium. The ceremony was standard graduation fare. Speeches about bright futures and new beginnings. The principal's remarks about the unique character of this particular class. I barely heard any of it. My attention focused on scanning the rows of graduates for Jamie's face. When they finally began calling names, I sat forward in my seat, camera ready. Several rows ahead, I could see Richard doing the same. "James Anderson," the principal announced. Jamie walked across the stage, shoulders back, head high. He accepted his diploma, pausing for the official photo. And I couldn't hold back my tears. Every struggle, every late-night study session, every moment of doubt had led to this achievement. My son graduating despite every obstacle. The ceremony concluded with the traditional tassel turn and cap toss. As graduates filed out to meet their families in the courtyard, I pushed through the crowd, eager to reach Jamie first. I found him near the fountain, already surrounded by his basketball teammates. When he saw me, his face lit up and he broke away to meet me. "You did it," I said, pulling him into a tight hug. "We did it," he corrected, his voice muffled against my shoulder. Richard and the others found us moments later, creating a circle of congratulations around Jamie. Sophia took photos while the twins joked about finally having graduation photos they could post on Instagram. The atmosphere was light celebratory, exactly what Jamie deserved. Then I heard her voice. "Well, if it isn't the graduate." Patricia approached our group wearing an expensive-looking cream-colored suit, her silver hair arranged perfectly. She carried a small gift bag, but made no move to give it to Jamie. "Congratulations, I suppose?" she said, her tone making it clear she considered his graduation a minor accomplishment at best. Jamie nodded politely. "Thank you for coming, Grandma Patricia. Will wonders never cease," she continued as if he hadn't spoken. "I remember when your teachers doubted you'd make it past sophomore year." I stepped closer to Jamie protectively. "Actually, his teachers have been very supportive of his progress." She raised an eyebrow. "Special accommodations can work wonders, I suppose." The tension in our little circle was palpable. Richard cleared his throat clearly, preparing to change the subject, when a photographer from the local paper approached. "Could I get a group photo of the graduate with family?" he asked, camera poised. We arranged ourselves around Jamie with Richard and me on either side the twins and Caleb beside us, and Sophia next to her husband. Patricia positioned herself prominently in the front. Say congratulations, the photographer called. Before anyone could speak, Patricia stepped away from the group. I'm not going to pretend this is the same as a real academic achievement, she said loudly. The photographer lowered his camera, looking confused. Around us, other families turned to stare. Mom Caleb warned, but she ignored him. No, I'm tired of this charade. Patricia continued, her voice rising. She turned to Jamie, jabbing a finger toward him. Your kid means nothing to me. Caleb's kids deserve everything because they're smart. The courtyard went silent. I stood frozen in shock, unable to believe she would be so explicitly cruel on this day of all days. Jamie's face drained of color, but he remained standing tall, his diploma clutched tightly in his hand. Patricia. That's enough, Richard finally said, stepping forward. She rounded on him. You know it's true. We've spent years pretending his mediocrity is special. Meanwhile, Adam and Amelia are actually going to accomplish something with their lives. I found my voice at last, rage trembling through my body. You need to leave, now! Gladly, Patricia snapped. I only came out of family obligation. She turned and stormed away, leaving behind a stunned silence. Jamie! I reached for his hand, finding it ice cold. I was shaking with anger and disbelief. He squeezed my hand, his expression composed despite the public humiliation. It's okay, Mom. It's nothing I didn't already know, she thought. But it wasn't okay, not even close. I pulled him close, whispering fiercely in his ear. I promise you shall never crush your spirit again. Not ever. Around us, the celebrations had resumed, but our small group remained silent. The twins looked mortified. Caleb appeared devastated, and Richard seemed paralyzed by indecision. Sophia was the first to recover. Jamie, what your grandmother said was inexcusable, she stated firmly. Please know that none of us share those views. We're all incredibly proud of you. Jamie nodded, but I could see the hurt behind his eyes, the wound that went bone deep. In that moment, watching my son's quiet dignity in the face of such cruelty, something shifted inside me. The need to protect him transformed into something more calculated, more determined. Patricia had declared war on my child's self-worth, and I would not allow her to win. I smiled at the group, a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I think Jamie and I need some time to celebrate privately. Thank you all for coming. As we walked away, Jamie leaned close to me. What did you mean, Mom, about her never crushing my spirit again? I squeezed his shoulder. Trust me, sweetheart. Some revenge comes quietly. The drive home was mostly silent. Jamie stared out the window absently, turning his tassel between his fingers. I glanced at him occasionally, measuring his mood, trying to gauge how deeply Patricia's words had cut. Are you okay? I finally asked as we pulled into our driveway. He shrugged. I'm used to her thinking I'm stupid. The casual way he said it broke my heart all over again. No one should be used to being treated that way, especially by family. But I forced myself to remain calm. You're not stupid, Jamie. You never have been. I know. He gave me a small smile. You made sure I knew that. Inside, Jamie went upstairs to change out of his dress clothes, while I sat at the kitchen table, my thoughts racing. My initial instinct was pure rage, a desire to confront Patricia publicly to expose her cruelty for everyone to see. But that approach would only create more drama, potentially embarrassing Jamie further. No, this called for something more strategic. Something that would protect Jamie and prevent Patricia from harming him or others in the future. For the next week, I dedicated every free moment to research. I started with Patricia herself, leveraging connections from the hospital where Id worked for years. A nurse friend who had grown up in Patricia's hometown provided the first interesting piece of information. You know she never finished college herself, right? My friend mentioned during lunch. I nearly choked on my sandwich. What? But she's always going on about academic achievement. My friend nodded. Dropped out after 2 years. Some say she had undiagnosed learning issues herself. Rumor was she couldn't keep up with the course load, but refused to seek help. This nugget of information sent me down a new investigative path. Through social media connections and discreet conversations with longtime community members, I pieced together a fascinating picture. Patricia had struggled academically in her youth, but had been pushed relentlessly by her own parents. After failing out of college, she'd married quickly and channeled all her academic ambitions into her only son, Caleb. Caleb had been a good student, but not exceptional. When he married and had the twins, Patricia had transferred her obsession to her grandchildren, pushing them toward the academic success she had never achieved herself. The irony was breathtaking. Patricia had been projecting her own academic insecurities onto Jamie, punishing him for having the same struggles she'd never confronted in herself. Armed with this insight, I arranged to meet Caleb for coffee at a small cafe outside of town. He looked tired when he arrived with dark circles under his eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," I said, as he slid into the booth across from me. He nodded, fidgeting with a sugar packet. "I want to apologize again for my mother's behavior. It was inexcusable." "Yes, it was," I agreed, not softening the truth. "But I'm not here for apologies. I'm here because I'm concerned about all of our children." Caleb looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Carefully, I shared what I'd learned about Patricia's background, watching his expression shift from surprise to understanding. "That actually explains a lot," he admitted when I finished. "She always pushed me so hard in school, nothing was ever good enough. And now she's doing the same to the twins," I pointed out gently, "and using them as weapons against Jamie." Caleb ran a hand through his hair. "You're right. But I don't know what to do about it. She won't listen to me. She never has. Have you asked the twins how they feel about her expectations?" He looked away, clearly uncomfortable. "They seem to be handling it fine. They get good grades. They're going to great schools. Are they happy, Caleb?" His silence was answer enough. I pressed further, suggesting that perhaps the twins were suffering under the weight of Patricia's expectations too. Eventually, Caleb admitted that Adam had been treated for anxiety last year, and Amelia had recently confessed to feeling overwhelmed by the pressure to be perfect. "I think we need to present a united front," I suggested, "for all the kids' sake." By the time we left the cafe, we had the beginnings of a plan. Caleb agreed to talk with the twins about how they'd been affected by their grandmother's expectations and to approach Sophia about joining our efforts. My next step was unexpected but crucial. I reached out to Sophia directly, inviting her to meet me for lunch. To my surprise, she agreed readily. "I've been wanting to talk with you," she confessed over salads at a downtown restaurant. "Richard's been upset since the graduation incident, but he doesn't know how to handle his mother-in-law." Sophia was more forthcoming than I'd anticipated. She shared that she'd been concerned about Patricia's influence for years, especially how she pitted the children against each other. "The twins adore Jamie," Sophia said. "They've always felt terrible about the way their grandmother treats him." With Sophia's support added to Caleb's, I felt confident moving forward. The final piece fell into place when I contacted Dr. Melissa Jensen, the director of the Learning Support Center at Westbrook High School. Dr. Jensen had been instrumental in developing Jamie's academic accommodations over the years and had witnessed firsthand his determination and growth. "I have a proposal," I told her during our meeting in her office, "one that might help other students like Jamie." By the time graduation week faded into summer, my plan was fully formed. I approached Jamie with the first part of it over dinner one evening. "I think we should host a graduation celebration," I suggested casually. "For you and the twins. A proper one to make up for what happened." Jamie looked skeptical. "You want to celebrate with them?" "After what Grandma Patricia said, the twins aren't responsible for their grandmother's behavior," I reminded him. "And from what I've heard, they were mortified by what happened." After some consideration, Jamie agreed. He had always gotten along well with Adam and Amelia when Patricia wasn't around stirring up competition. We began planning a backyard barbecue for the following weekend, and I asked Jamie to personally invite the twins. To Patricia's celebration, he asked, eyebrows raised. "No," I corrected him. "To yours. All three of you have worked hard and achieved something important. You deserve to celebrate together without anyone making comparisons." I sent formal invitations to the entire extended family, including Patricia. Her response came quickly, a terse note saying she had prior commitments. I hadn't expected anything different. The day of the celebration arrived, and our backyard was transformed. Strings of lights hung from the trees, tables were set with colorful cloths, and a professional caterer was setting up a buffet featuring all three graduates' favorite foods. Dr. Jensen arrived early, helping me arrange a special display at the center of the main table. Richard and Sophia were among the first guests to arrive, followed by Jamie's friends from the basketball team and several of his teachers. The twins came with Caleb looking slightly uncertain, but relaxed in casual summer clothes. As people mingled and filled plates, I noticed a late arrival. Patricia stood at the edge of the yard watching the proceedings with a pinched expression. She had come after all, likely unable to resist seeing what we had planned. Perfect, I thought, moving forward with the program we'd arranged. I clinked a glass to get everyone's attention, standing beside the special display that remained covered with a cloth. Thank you all for coming to celebrate these three amazing young people. I began gesturing to Jamie, Adam, and Amelia. Each of them has completed an important journey and is beginning an exciting new chapter. The crowd applauded as the three graduates moved to stand together. I could see Patricia edging closer, curiosity overcoming her reluctance. Today isn't just about celebrating their past achievements, I continued. It's about recognizing their unique strengths and contributions. Jamie, would you like to share your news? Jamie stepped forward, looking nervous but determined. I've been accepted into the business program at Lakewood State, he announced, and I've been awarded a partial scholarship based on my essay about overcoming dyslexia. Applause broke out again, and I saw Patricia frowning at the unexpected announcement. Adam and Amelia, I believe you have some news as well, I prompted. The twins exchanged glances before Amelia spoke. We've decided to defer our college enrollment for a year. A murmur ran through the crowd. Patricia took an involuntary step forward, her face a mask of shock. Adam continued. We want to explore our creative interests before committing to academic programs. I'm going to work with a local architect, and Amelia has been accepted to a writing workshop in New York. I could see Patricia struggling to maintain her composure as her carefully crafted narrative about her brilliant grandchildren pursuing prestigious degrees immediately after high school crumbled before her eyes. Now, for the real reason I've gathered you all here, I said, turning to the covered display. With the help of Dr. Jensen and many generous community members, I'm proud to announce the establishment of the Anderson Morgan Scholarship Fund. I pulled away the cloth to reveal a beautifully designed plaque and informational display. The scholarship will support students who demonstrate exceptional perseverance in overcoming learning challenges. It honors the different paths to success, that all three of these graduates represent intelligence, that shows up in many forms, including academic achievement, creative expression, and personal determination. As I explained the details of the scholarship, I watched Patricia's face. She stood frozen, her worldview visibly shaken, as she realized her grandchildren had rejected her narrow definition of success, while Jamie was being celebrated for exactly the qualities she had dismissed. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. Caleb stepped forward to stand beside me, his face solemn. I'd like to say something, he announced. For years, I've allowed my mother to put unhealthy pressure on my children and to make harmful comparisons between them and Jamie. Patricia gasped audibly, but Caleb continued, his voice growing stronger. That ends today. The constant competition and comparison have hurt all three of these amazing young people in different ways. We're going to address this as a family with professional help. He turned to face his mother directly. Mom, we've arranged for family therapy sessions starting next week. I hope you'll join us voluntarily, but either way, this pattern stops now. Patricia stood speechless, her carefully constructed facade cracking. For perhaps the first time in her life, she had no ready response, no way to control the narrative. The celebration continued around her, with guests congratulating all three graduates and expressing enthusiasm for the scholarship initiative. Patricia remained for only a short time. Before slipping away, her usual commanding presence diminished. As the party wound down, Jamie found me arranging leftover food containers in the kitchen. That was pretty sneaky, Mom, he said, but he was smiling. I raised an eyebrow. I have no idea what you're talking about. He laughed, the sound light and genuine. I haven't heard him laugh like that in a long time. You found out about her, didn't you? That she never finished college? I simply handed him another container to fill. Some revenge comes quietly. 1 year can change everything. As autumn leaves began to turn again, I marveled at how different our lives had become since that fateful graduation day. Jamie thrived in his college program. The support services at Lakewood State lived up to their reputation, providing him with text-to-speech software, extended test times, and specialized tutoring. For the first time in his academic life, the playing field was truly level, and his natural intelligence and work ethic shone through. He made the dean's list his first semester, calling me with the news while I was on a night shift at the hospital. Adam and Amelia had flourished during their gap year, discovering passions beyond academic achievement. Adam had developed an interest in sustainable architecture, while Amelia had published her first short story in a literary magazine. They remained close with Jamie, often meeting up for weekend adventures when he was home from school. And then there was Patricia. The family therapy sessions had initially been tense and difficult. Patricia had resisted examining her own behavior, defending her emphasis on academic achievement as necessary and appropriate. But the therapist was skilled and persistent, gently guiding Patricia toward confronting her own academic insecurities. The breakthrough came 3 months in, when Patricia finally acknowledged her own learning struggles in college. Tears streaming down her face, she confessed how she'd felt stupid and worthless when she couldn't keep up with her coursework, how her parents had withdrawn their emotional support when her grades slipped. "I've spent my entire life trying to prove I'm not stupid," she admitted in a shaky voice. Through Caleb, and then through Adam and Amelia. It was a painful revelation, but a necessary one. From that point, healing began to seem possible. I kept my distance during this process, focusing on supporting Jamie and developing the scholarship program. Dr. Jensen and I had successfully raised enough funds to support 2 students in the first year, with pledges for continued donations. The local paper ran a feature on the initiative highlighting Jamie's story as inspiration. I was reviewing applications for the scholarship one evening when my doorbell rang. Opening it, I found Patricia standing on my porch, looking smaller, somehow less intimidating than she once had. "May I come in?" she asked, her usual imperious tone replaced by something quieter. I hesitated, then stepped aside to let her enter. Jamie was away at college, so I didn't need to worry about protecting him from potential harm. Patricia sat stiffly on the edge of my couch, hands clasped in her lap. He had never seen her look uncertain before. "I've come to apologize," she began. "What I said to Jamie at his graduation was unforgivable." "Yes, it was. I agreed, not making it easy for her." She nodded, accepting my response. "I've learned some difficult truths about myself these past months, about why I've been so fixated on academic achievement, why I've been so hard on Jamie." I waited silently, letting her find her way through this conversation she'd initiated. "I have dyslexia," she said finally. "Undiagnosed until recently. The therapist suggested I get tested." She gave a bitter laugh. "All these years I was punishing Jamie for having the same struggle I refused to acknowledge in myself. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I found no satisfaction in her pain. That must have been difficult to learn." "It's been illuminating," she admitted. "And humbling." She looked up at me directly. "Is he happy? At college?" I softened slightly at the genuine concern in her voice. "Very happy. The support program is excellent. He's finally being seen for who he really is." "Good. That's good." She twisted her hands in her lap. Do you think he'd be willing to talk to me sometime when he's ready?" "That's up to Jamie," I said honestly. "He's an adult now. He makes his own decisions about relationships." She nodded, accepting this boundary. "Of course." After she left, I called Jamie to let him know about the visit. He was quiet for a long moment before responding. "She really got tested for dyslexia." "Yes," I confirmed. "Apparently she's had it her whole life without knowing." He absorbed this information in silence. Then, with the compassion that had always been his hallmark, he said, "That must have been really hard for her." A few months later, Patricia approached me with an unexpected proposal. She wanted to start a support group for parents and grandparents of children with learning differences. Would I be willing to help? It was a tentative olive branch, and after consideration, I accepted it. The group began meeting monthly in the community center, sharing resources and strategies for supporting their children, without defining them by their challenges. To my surprise, Patricia proved to be an effective advocate once she redirected her formidable energy. She spoke openly about her own late diagnosis, using her story to help other families recognize and address learning differences without shame. Her background in education combined with her personal experience gave her insights that others found valuable. Jamie returned home for summer break, bringing stories of new friends and academic successes. The change in him was remarkable, a confidence that came from within rather than requiring external validation. He agreed to meet with Patricia, a brief coffee that was awkward but civil. Small steps toward healing. The most profound moment came at the end of the summer, when we held the award ceremony for the first recipients of the Anderson Morgan Scholarship. Two deserving students received funding for their college education, along with technology packages designed to support their specific learning needs. Jamie had been asked to speak at the ceremony, sharing his journey from struggling student to college success story. As he stood at the podium poised and articulate, I felt tears of pride threatening. Learning differences aren't learning disabilities, he told the audience. They're just different paths to the same destination. My journey took some unexpected turns, but it made me stronger, more resilient, and more compassionate. In the audience, Patricia listened intently, occasionally nodding in agreement. After the ceremony, she approached Jamie. "That was an excellent speech," she said, her voice warm with genuine pride. "You have a gift for connecting with people, Jamie." "That's a form of intelligence, too. One I wish I'd recognized sooner." Jamie smiled, accepting the compliment with grace. "Thanks, Grandma. Maybe you could share some of your experiences with the group sometime. As someone who's been on both sides of this issue." "I'd like that," she replied, looking surprised and touched by the invitation. As I watched them talking cautiously, building a new relationship based on mutual respect rather than comparison, I reflected on how far we'd come. The cruel words spoken at graduation had been a turning point, but not in the way Patricia had intended. Instead of crushing Jamie's spirit, they had set in motion a series of events that ultimately freed everyone from the narrow definitions of success and worth that had confined them. That fall, Jamie received an award from his university for his work mentoring younger students with learning differences. He established a chapter of a national dyslexia awareness organization on campus, creating a community for students who had previously felt isolated. The twins returned to college with clearer goals and healthier perspectives, maintaining close relationships with Jamie despite attending different schools. The cousins had developed a genuine friendship, supporting each other's different paths. As for me, I continued my nursing work while helping expand the scholarship program. Working alongside Patricia in the support group was never something I'd anticipated, but it became a satisfying collaboration, our shared commitment to helping families transcending our difficult past. The human spirit is remarkably resilient. When someone tries to diminish us, we can fight back not with matching cruelty, but with actions that elevate everyone. True intelligence isn't measured by test scores or college prestige, but by the wisdom to recognize every person's inherent worth and the courage to stand firm in that truth. Sometimes the most powerful response to cruelty isn't a public confrontation or dramatic gesture, but a quiet reconstruction of the narrative. By celebrating different forms of intelligence and success, we created a new story, one where every child, including Jamie, could find their place to shine. Have you ever had to stand up against someone who tried to diminish you or someone you love? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Remember, the most effective revenge often comes quietly through living well and creating positive change. Thank you for watching this story, and please like, subscribe, and share if it resonated with you. Until next time, remember that your worth is never defined by someone else's narrow measure of success.